All right, so we're live. Welcome to another Run Wild with Us. Ask Us Anything. I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild and Rise Presses. I'm here with my cat, Margarita, and we're typically here with you on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, along with a couple of our amazing acquisition editors. And we're here to answer any old questions that you may have. And conveniently, here's Ben. Nope, can't hear you. All right, no worries. So anyway, while Ben's working out his audio, just want to let you guys know. So, um, the whole purpose of this is so that you can ask us whatever you want, and it can be about publishing, it could be about editing, it could be about the craft of writing, it could be, I don't know why we do what we do, what our favorite books are. I don't care, whatever you want. Feel free to ask. And typically, how we make it work. Hey, CJ, awesome to see you. Um, excuse me, how we make it work is you ask a question, in the chat, and then what I'll do is I will repeat the question, and then we take turns in answering that question. So, actually, first, I have phenomenal news. CJ, you won last week's book. So, for anybody watching, if you watch live and you have an opportunity to ask us questions, the person who asks us the most interesting question will then win a book of their choice from our whole catalog. So last week, our winner was CJ, who gave us a truly awesome question. Don't ask me what it was because I don't remember anymore. I just remember we all concurred that it absolutely was the best question. And so yeah, so congratulations, CJ. And for you guys who are watching, the same thing will happen again this week, right? So ask us any old questions that you may have. It can be about anything. And again, we will go take turns, and we will respond in kind regarding whatever that question is. So with that, I'm guessing that Ben is still working out his audio complexities, and I want to apologize. So I actually came down with the flu. Last week I was a little bit sick. This week I'm on the tail end of it, so I finally don't have a fever. This is the first day in I want to say uh, 4 days that I have not had a fever, and so I'm pretty excited because I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that means tomorrow I'll actually be 100%. Anyway, and by the way, every week we're usually here as well with my cat Margarita. She loves to make appearances and make sure that her presence is thoroughly known. Also, if you're watching and it is not Thursday between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time, and you have a question, then just go ahead and pop it into the comments section, because we do monitor the comments section on a quite regular basis to see if anybody's come up with any kind of questions. And then what we do is we introduce those questions a subsequent week, and we will then respond to those questions. Two more things for you to be aware of. We actually have two other events coming up. One of them is a Storytellers Happy Hour, and that Storytellers Happy Hour is scheduled for Tuesday. I'm just double checking my calendar to make sure I am accurate. Um, let's see. The Storytellers Happy Hour. Oh no, wait, I'm incorrect. The Storytellers Happy Hour is set for Monday the 30th because Tuesday is Halloween, and who wants to watch our silly faces getting smashed on Halloween? I'm sure. I mean, I don't. Um, But anyway, a Storyteller's happy hour is at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it'll be myself and Ruben Teehee Hazlett who will be co-hosting. And typically, what happens is as we are imbibing in our drinks of choice, we basically tell stories on specific prompts. So that is going to be a whole lot of fun. We always have a blast, and again, it's recorded. And then also, don't miss a new series of Don't Be a Zombie and How to Regain Your Purpose and Fulfill Your Dreams. That is a much briefer podcast that we have now on Tuesdays. For it's usually only like 15 minutes. Again, I ended up canceling this week's just because I was sick, but really, really looking forward to doing it next week. Hey, Ben.
Now can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
sweet, awesome. Rod says, "Hey Lisa, hey Ben. I just stopped editing for the day and very happy to see you." Well, very happy to see you too, Rod. As always, fantastic. And by the way, guys, Rod is one of our new editors, and he's really diving into the editing role, which is kind of phenomenal. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. And don't worry, I won't do the whole slave driver. You better get your tushy moving, mister. I only do that to Peter and Ben because they let me. So, so Ben, how are you doing, young man? I know we're not going to have Peter. Peter is working actively, and this is not my fault, by the way. He is actively working on Curtis's latest book, and he just wants to finish the last bit of edits. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, how are you?
I'm doing well. I did a little polished on the short story anthology. Oh, Wretched is in the final phases, and three more waiting.
Wow, check you out, Rockstar. That's awesome.
Yeah, they've been
Congratulations.
waiting for a while, so but I'm headed that way. I keep
Awesome.
telling the authors I'm headed to them.
Yeah, nope, and I'm sure they understand. Yeah. I'm behind. I have 11 novellas I have to edit.
Mm.
So, yeah, this getting sick thing really knocked me out like cuz normally I work and then I go from work and I grab a bite of something and then I go right into editing. And so instead I've been getting caught up on other stuff and then basically going to bed early. That's my body's just been like, yeah, no, we're not doing
No,
this. No.
I
So,
had those days. I didn't even need to be sick to have those days. It was just nah. Okay.
right? Seriously. And I also have actually, I think one novel that I did a first pass and I have to go through the revisions, two that I haven't got started yet, and then the 11 novellas that I haven't
Yeah.
done a first pass yet. So, I need it. And this weekend I don't have a lot planned, so my intent is to really just double down and like try and knock out as much as I can.
I've had that
Um,
same intent.
oh yeah. Rod says, I'm lucky. Anatoly is a dedicated writer who's really working with me. Anatoly's the editor, the author that Rod's working with. That's phenomenal, Rod. Congratulations. I'm so glad that you're having a great collaborative experience with Anatoly. That's awesome.
Yes.
Um, so I let CJ know that she was our lucky winner from last week.
Yay.
Yay! CJ, really looking forward to hearing what book that you would like to have. I don't know. Any Ben, has any topics come up in the last week or so that we might want to uh talk about?
Oh, well, we had that one today about the possessive apostrophe
Oh yeah.
with the if the word ends in s, do you add apostrophe s, or do you just add the apostrophe? I
Mm,
think we concurred that you just add the apostrophe.
I believe we did. Yes, that is
Which,
true.
yeah,
It's just
takes me back to Miss Christine Lloyd in second grade. She would be proud that I remembered.
that's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Um, no, I remembered it the way that you described it. Like, well, it's got a S there, so why are you adding another one? Basically, like
Yeah. The
pretty simple,
apostrophe shows possession.
right? Exactly, and that's the whole purpose of the apostrophe. So
Yeah.
why make it a thing? Yeah.
And CJ,
Dan,
we converted CJ over.
we
She says
did.
it looks cleaner.
Yep. She says just adding the apostrophe looks cleaner to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Absolutely. I'm just trying to, I'm like, whenever I'm sick, I mean, you know how you get foggy brain, even though I seem to have foggy brain a lot lately. Um, I don't think, other than that one question that was brought to us, I'm trying to think if there were any other, oh, well, I mean, I literally just got off the phone with one of our amazing authors who was just trying to get clarification on how does the distribution process work and how does it work with bookstores. So like if he wants to, and like retailers, if he wants to set up an event, and if he wants to get reviews. So I don't know. Do you want to? Should we go down that path? I think. I mean, we totally can.
Yeah. There's no other questions keeping us from it.
Okay. Well, and by the way, guys, I'll start this whole diatribe, but you're more than welcome to toss in some questions because or ask questions based on what I say. Actually, I would love that. I like it to be more of a dialogue than a monologue. Um, so the first question, right? How does it work with the publisher and the distributor? So the publisher provides the distributor all the information around the book. So everything from the back jacket copy, what the basic marketing plan is. So like we have a very core marketing that we perform, and most of it admittedly is around submitting the book out for reviews and to bloggers and stuff like that. Excuse me. And all of that typically happens, I want to say 3 to 4 months before the book goes into print, because honestly you're not going to get anybody's attention if you send it out any sooner than that. So we've already let our distributor know that, across the board, this is what we do, right? And we submit all this information to the distributor, and then the distributor, they're the ones who have the relationship with the retailers and the bookstores and basically anybody who's going to buy a book. But yeah, anyone who's going to basically buy a book. So but I don't mean that like if Ben walks into a bookstore, they don't build a relationship with Ben, they build a relationship with the bookstore. So what that distributor does is they go out, it's usually between 4 to 6 months before the um before the book comes out, and they say, "Hey, we've got these amazing books that are coming out in this period of time. This is what they're about." And if the distributor thinks that the book has an opportunity to sell really well, or like let's say it's a mystery themed bookseller, they may highlight to that bookseller, "Here are all the mysteries we've got coming out. You may really be interested in these specifically instead of everything that's in our catalog," right? So then that retailer, including bookstores, they'll then decide what they want to purchase from that catalog. Now, typically, and that's it, right? We actually don't have any visibility to that. The only time that we're actually engaged in those conversations is if the distributor has what I lovingly call like the pitch conference, right? So that's usually a day or two where the distributor pulls in all these different retailers, and typically the publishers are given 1 minute per book, and you have what's called a one pager, and the one pager is a PowerPoint slide that has all the key information about the book, any phenomenal reviews that it's already received, any phenomenal blurbs it's already received, anything fantastic about the author, right? Like what makes that author amazing? Why are they the person to write this book? And any other critical information, right? And then basically what happens is typically the publisher will then present that those one pagers to the retailers. Now, I've done this twice, I think, and each time I don't have visibility to who's in the room. I actually have no idea what retailers are there, and I believe it's actually also recorded for those who can't actually attend. Now, I have heard of publishers that bring in authors who they feel are really good speakers and ask them to speak to that 1 minute about their book. But that's a whole another thing. Um, so then at that point, so we're looking at 3 to 4 months before the book comes out. Uh, Typically, what happens at that point, it's it's really all about the relationship with the bookseller and the distributor, as well as the bookseller and the author. Now, the reason I say that is so the distributor's only going to do so much, right? That sales team, they're going to go out and they're going to do like blanket conversations. I'm going to make a bet. And I don't know this for a fact, but like if I was the distributor, I'm not going to double down and work my tushy off for some small bookstore in, you know, Wasahookie, upstate New York, right? Clearly I made that up. Uh, they're gonna focus on they're gonna focus on chains. They're gonna focus on that could be regional, it could be global, it could be North American. They're gonna focus on like larger retailers like the Costco's and the Targets and the Barnes and Nobles of the world, because that's where they're gonna get the biggest bang for the buck, right? And if it's a book that they think would do really well, like in schools, then they're going to focus on so there's one distributor that works with all schools in all of North America, and that's Baker and Taylor. So they're really going to pitch hard to Baker and Taylor if they think that it's a book that they would find relevant so far. So Ben, just as a gut check, do you think I've just completely overwhelmed everybody and they're all run away screaming? Because that was a lot.
No, that's my job. But no, I think it's good to hear it from someone who has the insight to say it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, hey Margaret. Margaret Buchanan says, hey Ben and Lisa. So if anyone else has joined a little late, so what we're basically doing right now is explaining what is the role and relationship of the publisher to the distributor. And then next up, I'm going to explain the relationship between the distributor and the retailer, as well as the author and the retailer, right? And why it's so incredibly important for authors to build those relationships. Um, and then Ben can jump in and let me know that I've basically caused everybody to their eyes to roll to the back of their heads, and they ran away. So which is all good. It's fine. Um, so uh, from a sales perspective, right? We're actually not involved in anything around book appearances. Not really, not unless the author reaches out to us to let us know that the retailer is asking for help in obtaining the book, because then we'll intervene and we'll pull in people that we know at IPG to help us get the books, so you've got them for you at that event. But we also, it's really that what we're doing is more of the behind the scenes work, right? Like, so we have a 20 questions a recurring event where I'll get together with an author and I basically pummel the author with questions, not just about the book, but about the author, him or herself. And we invite the authors to be a part of things like our storytellers happy hour and all these other events, again, to help build buzz around that book. We also have a newsletter that we will promote the book within the newsletter. And then going back to the distributor, our distributor also ensures that all of our titles are on a platform called Edelweiss. And Edelweiss is basically a preview catalog of all books that are coming out and that have already come out, um, by, I want to say, by all the major distributors, if not by independents. But the independents would be submitting them in, independently. Duh, right? But what happens is, a lot of retailers and like schools and so on, they go to Edelweiss so they can check out like what's coming out that they might be interested in. And oftentimes it's a they will use the platform as a way to give away digital advanced review copies. So, and that's actually very, very common, commonly done across the, I'd say, the larger distributors. Now, when it comes to like the whole, like, again, getting, uh, conducting workshops and, getting appearances at booksellers and, getting on local media, that kind of thing, I want to say most of the time, it actually, that accountability actually sits with the author. So I can tell you right now, me being, little Miss Smarty Pants, when we when we came out with our catalog for 2023 for this year, I thought, you know what? I'm going to reach out to every independent bookstore and anybody who bought our books that I can, because I get a list of here are all the different bookstores that bought your books last year, right? So I'm going to reach out to them and I'm going to say, hey, I saw that you bought X, Y, and Z from us before. I think you would love blah, 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 right? I would love to give you an advanced review copy. So again, me being Miss Smarty Pants, I start knocking that out and I'm thinking this is going to be great. We'll build relationships with these booksellers and then that way our authors are in a much better position, blah blah blah. And we can like introduce our authors to these booksellers. Well, like no one replies to me. And I thought, that's really weird. And then until I had two booksellers who reached out to me and said, I'm not allowed to talk to you by contract with the distributor. I can only talk to the distributor. So contractually, I could actually lose my distribution agreement if I speak directly to the booksellers, right? Again, unless it's something weird where like the bookseller's having a hard time getting a hold of the books, and then I basically introduce them to the people who can intervene at IPG. But what this means again, though, is that it puts the impetus to actually get those events in place with the author. So, especially for first time authors or relatively new authors, what I recommend is um, if you're one of our authors, reach out to us, reach out to your product manager. You'll know who your product manager is. Ask for the link to the folder that we have where it has the recording of a marketing workshop I provided like a month ago now, something like that, and to tons of materials that you can use, both templates as well as guidance documents. We even provide, I think that we have two different files that map out for you what to do as 90 days all the way up until the day that your book is available in terms of promotion and publicity. I mean, really, really great detailed information. Again, you'll probably be overwhelmed, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. So, you as the author, reach out to your local booksellers. And what I recommend is be sure to tell them why you're why are you special, right? Why are you the person to have written the book that you did? Is it your background, right? Is it some specific research you've done? I actually just gave the example of Tori Eldridge, who wrote Dance Among the Flames. Well, she has another book series, a mystery series called the Ninja series with a different publisher. And when she was first pitching to booksellers, hey, this is why I'm the person to do it. Well, she actually is a ninja. I mean, like she's trained in the ninja arts. So it gave her so that it would be more interesting, right? For it wouldn't just be her, pitching books and saying, "Here, I'll sign the book. Look, isn't that interesting?" Like when you're new, you got to come forward with something that makes you special so that people want to come out and hear you talk and check out your book for more than just the fact that you wrote a book, right? So, what having those marketing plans helps you do is figure that out. Why are you special? And you know what? If you're not sure, ask your editor, why am I special? Right? Because a lot of times when you're a first time author, you just think, well, I don't know. And why is she bothering me with this fill in the expletive, right? Ask your friends, ask your family, why am I the special person to have written this, right? What makes me unique? And that can help inform you what you're going to say when you talk to booksellers. Now, so you're going to do that, right? You're going to contact them and ask them, would they be open to a reading or a book signing or whatever? I also recommend do your research beforehand. Find out if they do things like this, right? Do they do appearances? Do they do book signings? And that'll help guide you as well in terms of what you're actually going to pitch to them. Rod Gilly says, as I am so shy, it may be hard to believe, but I'm a very enthusiastic promoter. Oh no, I believe that. Um, Bookstore, why should I promote your book? Rod, Ben White edited my story. Yeah, that's not the answer. I mean, it might be my answer, but you never know. Bookstore, I'll take 100,000 copies. Hey, it could happen. It could happen. Who knows? So the other thing I recommend is that, especially if you're a first time author, or maybe this is only your second or third book, and honestly, a lot of authors who like they have multiple books out, they still do this. Pitch um a group event, right? So go out and figure out like what friends do you have? Excuse me. Don't figure out what friends you have. Like that just sounded obnoxious. Figure out who do you know who writes in a similar genre and may be willing to do a book event with you, right? And then what you want to do is again package that. And I don't know about you, but I at least have been getting a ton of materials lately on group events that are themed. And it's usually like, we're going to have these four storytellers who all wrote mysteries about like New Orleans or something, right? And they're going to talk about what made them want to get all Creole, right? I don't know, whatever. And then afterwards they're going to have a book signing. So that way again, so you've got a reason for people to come into the door and then a reason for them to hang out, and then hopefully the reading or the Q&A will help encourage individuals to actually buy the books. Margaret Buchanan says, would you explain the role of the line editor once the manuscript is ready for publication date? So in all honesty, so the line editor is usually reading for I want to say like consistency and like grammatical correctness, stuff like that. That's basically what the line editor's purpose is. We actually don't have a line editor. Our editors basically act both as a conceptual editor as well as a line editor. But the houses that do have an actual line editor, that's their function. I don't know, Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, that would be a very limited duty of the line editor. But to broaden it out for Margaret here, we will. So okay, the book. If the my approach is if the author's satisfied, then I'm satisfied, not before. But so when the author says we've gone through it, I'm happy with it, and I said, well, I've gone through it too, and if you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. So we're going to send it to production, and then there's some there's some additional things to get the author ready for marketing with the comp titles. What books are comparable titles for it? And I think a lot of readers think that, well, it's a comp title. It's got to be the same kind of genre. It's got to be the same setting. It's got to be almost the same book.
Mm,
And it really doesn't, because the comp title is are the characters of the same age. They're
mm,
different, but is it set in the same time frame of the characters, the same place, or a totally different place? And the theme of the story of the novel kicks in. So the comp titles, that dreaded third person bio is what the the editor will ask for. Um, they're not that hard to put together. Speaking of yourself, and Ben thinking and writing about himself in the same in the third person is weird. But and then
well,
the cover ideas for the cover,
mm,
and uh, really at Running Wild Press, if you give us some ideas, the artist will take it and do some magic with your ideas, and then send them back to you. And if you don't like what they did with your ideas, you let them know. But very rarely have I seen anybody say, "No, I don't like that." The artists are, I'd say they're 95% the first try,
mm-hmm,
and 100% the second try. So they're
mm-hmm.
they're good. And so it's just those kind of detail things to ramp up the while production's going on, to get the author thinking about marketing. And going back to what Lisa just said, with the relationship with your local networks and your local bookstores, your local libraries, and any writers group that's around, reach out to them, know who they are, make sure they know who you are. And if you're not a member, a lot of local writers groups will want you to be a member, but if you're not, at least know who they are, and have a contact within.
And
So
don't
there's
forget,
there's the logistics between the manuscript is ready for production, but the editor, and chances are you have a great relationship with the editor by then anyway, so you're going to ask your questions of that editor.
and don't forget, so back to, 2 points. One, at least with Running Wild, what we do is once we get the interior files, right? So that's the fully formatted files. We actually do give it back to the author so the author can look over it one more time. And as long as the edits aren't significant, meaning you're not completely rewriting the book, every once in a while we have that. It's very rare, right? Like where someone basically goes and has a panic attack, like, "Oh my God, these are my words! No!" Um, again, very rare. Usually they're like little, weird glitchy things or whatever, right? And then the author will give that feedback back. So, um, to Ben's point, like up until pretty much the very end, the author, well, what we do ask is give us the feedback. We'll integrate it. We'll have our guys integrate it, and then you can then take it. Then we ask for it to be one shot. That it's not multiple times, because it can become unwielding. Just because we do publish so many stories. I mean, it may not sound like a lot, but 15 to 20 books for both house per house, considering how small we are, that's a lot of books. And I literally, when I was presenting to our advisory board, I think it was in September of this year, one of them said, "Wow," and he runs a press, by the way. So that just sort of tells you, like, wow, you guys, seriously, you do that? How much in how brief a time? That's kind of insane. But then so that that talks about Margaret's point, and but then going back to Ben's point about building those relationships. Don't forget those events like comic cons and especially anything where people are getting together, right? Halloween, like if you've got a local uh some kind of local festival, get a table out there, right? Because remember, these are all people who love stories. So getting a table there, you're introducing them, you're bringing in an audience who you may not be able to access if you are only setting up time at booksellers at libraries and so on, because you're now only really addressing a very specific audience. And a lot of people nowadays are buying their stories, they're buying them off of Audible, right? They're buying them off, audiobooks have become hotter and hotter and hotter. They are going on Amazon, or they're going to some retailer online. So if you are doing an in-person event, which again I think is amazing and you need to do it, you need to build those relationships, you're missing those audiences who they may not buy their books normally from an in-person bookseller, but their tushy is going to be at that Halloween festival, right? Or they're going to be at that Comic-Con, because that's more, it's an ingrained event, right? It's more of an experience, and it's because it's experiential. Then they're gonna say, "Oh wow, check that out! I want to go check out CJ. What's her table all about? What's she got going on?" Right? CJ says, "When we get a table at a festival, are we able to purchase copies of our books to sell?" So you can do it two ways. So one, excuse me. One way to do it is some events actually have a bookseller that represents the event. So you want to find out first if that event has a bookseller that's being represented there, even if it's not the official bookseller of choice for the event. If there's one that's going to have a table there, you may just want to go to them and see if they'll be able to buy books on your behalf. And again, they're going to get it at wholesale, so you would get it from them at wholesale. Now, if you're with us and you get a table at a festival, what I typically will do is I'll connect you with one of our contacts at IPG, let them know that you're going to be at this festival. As far as we're aware, they don't have representation, and arrange for you to be able to buy books at wholesale. Typically, if you're only going to buy, like 8 or 9 books or something like that, we can arrange for it to be purchased at wholesale. But if you want to buy higher volumes, again, by contract, um, we that's why I connect you directly with IPG, right? And then that way there's no misunderstandings. Lisa's not building a secret society of, selling books somewhere. There's no like, you know, loosey goosey crap going on. It's all above board and nobody's getting paranoid. So I hope I hope that helps answer the question. Oh, I got a question actually earlier this week. So I had an author ask me if I could provide him a list of everyone who's ever bought a book from us. And I was like, no, like that would, I'm pretty sure, like legally, that's not allowed, right? And plus, there's no way we're going to have that information. The only thing that we're going to be able to get is what retailer bought the books. So, we may get a list of book sales from that occurred on Amazon, but it's just going to say Amazon bought 20 books. It's not going to tell me who those people were who bought the books from Amazon. Again, there's no way I'm going to be given any kind of information like that. Although it was fascinating to be asked that question. But and it's the first time in, good Lord, how long have we been around now, Ben? 7 years, 8 years,
Eight years
something like
almost.
that.
Eight.
8 years. Yeah, it's the first time in 8 years that anyone's asked that. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, uh, so all right, Ben, do you think I basically covered all the stuff?
Yeah, I think some of it is the relationship back to the publisher and the distributor is technical in nature, and
Mm-hmm.
but when you really get down to it, the author wants to build those networks in local, and then have the relationship with your editor and your publisher to do that technical behind the curtain stuff. So you
Mm-hmm.
so you don't really have to think about it after you, but do the networking stuff to where they have to do it for you and or explain it to you and say this is what we can do with the distributor,
And
and
don't
here's
you
the
forget,
relationship we have. So
and
it's all
don't
about relationships, I think.
Oh yeah,
Many different
100%.
layered relationships, but relationships.
And don't forget, like in all these engagements, excuse me, of the distributor talking to retailers, you know, when we're setting stuff out for reviews, all that kind of stuff, the author's not engaged in any of that activity, right? The only way the author would be engaged in it was like if you were a really well-known author and there were requests for you to speak regarding the book in some capacity or something like that. Then yes. But otherwise no. um we have had times when, you know, we've had books that, like when we had books named best of the year, I did arrange for like basically press tours, and our authors spoke on like NPR and, you know, different regional and local uh you know, news and all that kind of stuff. Now, we are actually just now starting to beef up our group. And I want to welcome, we have some brand new members of our amazing team. We have new story licensing leads who their job is basically to go through all of our catalog and say what stories they think might sell really well in other forms, whether it be games or translation or TV or film, and start pitching them out, right? And then we also have new story marketing leads, and their role is that they are assigned to upcoming, usually it's upcoming books, and they will help the author in figuring out like what is this going to look like. But also potentially, you know, where else, where might be good fits for us to pitch for the author to talk about the book, right? Do you belong on Oprah? I don't know, right? We'll find out. So yeah, so there are tons and tons of ways to get the word out, but to Ben's point, you know, so much of this is really, it's about relationships. It's so much of this is about really just figuring out like where are your sweet spots. Oh, and another thing, this actually came up. I was talking to my one of my mentees, Jerry, the other day, and you know he's looking to pitch not only novels but also potentially short story collections because his sweet spot right now it's really short stories. And I gotta tell you though, the man has a ton of different ideas, so I would not be surprised if he pops out, you know, a novel at least in draft by the end of this year. No pressure, Jerry, if you're watching. um you know, hint hint. Anyway, so but what I reminded him of is there was actually a study done, and I think it was a journalist who, she had published a book, and when she published her first book she was really disappointed, right? Like maybe 60 books sold, something like that, both in ebook and paperback. And she thought, oh god, so only my cousins bought my book? Like what the hell, right? Like why am I doing all this, you know, blah blah blah. Poor me, poor me, poor me. Yeah, welcome to the club, love. So anyway, um so she started reaching out to all the authors she knew to find out, like, is this normal or am I just a freak of nature, right? And she found out that when she not only researched among like friends and family kind of thing, when she found looked up like what was the path of success for like New York Times bestsellers and like huge award-winning authors, right? Were they like, did they put their first book out and like boom, they were like these tremendous you know, phenomenons? And the answer was no. There is actually a formula, and the formula is that typically those authors who become big bestsellers and who have a following, they don't actually start selling really well until their third book. And what it looked like was, yes, your first book, your friends, families, cousins, well, hopefully friends, went out, bought the book. Your second book, well, they started telling other people how fabulous you are, and people started researching you online, And the booksellers that you approached for your first book, they remember you from your first book. And they're like, hey, yeah, sure, come on by. Right. So again, you're building that network, you're building those relationships. And so, the first time maybe 60 books sell, the second time maybe 200 books sell. Woohoo! Right. And, you keep putting it out there, right? You keep providing opportunities for people to see you and to get to know you and to understand who you are as not only as an author, but again, why are you the fantastic person to be publishing, to be writing these stories? So by the time you get to your third book, then holy moly, well, at that point, well, now you're probably established in some way. Maybe it was all grassroots, or maybe you were really blessed and you got some really fantastic uh, reviews. Maybe you got invited to speak at a Comic-Con or at a book festival or at the Halloween festival. Who knows, right? But at that point, typically by your third book, people are like, hey, they pick up the book and they go, wow, this is really great. And also because you now have a record, it's more likely that more booksellers are going to pick up your book to have it on their bookshelves, right? They'll take a chance on you because they know you've got a history. They know you have other books out there. So at that point, to most people, that third book, as far as these people are aware, this is your first book because they've never seen you before. But what they do is they say, dude, this book freaking rocks. You know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to buy everything I can find by this author. And that's really how those authors who become more like full time, like this is their bread and butter, that's typically the trajectory. Rod Gilly says, my 2 cents, get to know book reviewers. I have made some friends, and there are a good number of reviewers who have committed to doing a review on books that I haven't written yet. 80% of my sales have come soon after a good book review. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I don't know, Ben, do you want to add anything? Because I just blathered again for entirely too long.
The just the letting it take off and even if it doesn't and it's what you love doing, it's show the persistence that it takes and pretending it never took off, because I think when it does, a lot of authors get lazy and less hungry. But as you were talking, I was thinking about the LinkedIn discussions I have with there are a lot of book marketers on LinkedIn, and they will search for anybody with author in their profile, and they'll reach out to be friends. And I always accept them because you never know. But I had one with a conversation with a marketer one day who said, "Well, send me a link to your book. Do you want to sell more books?" And of course, yeah, sure. But I told her that if a book of poems sells 1,000 copies, that's like a million copies in the novel world. And is it really worth having the paying for that effort to get to 1,000 copies sold by having a book marketer? And pretty much telling her, be careful what you ask for and where you're going to spend your time. Is it going to be worth your time or my time? So that discussion, she said, thanks. They still me get a website, but it's free advice. I didn't take it.
Yeah, so, I get hit up constantly.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of times I ask, okay, so can you give me proof of your success? Right?
Yeah.
Give me some KPIs, give me some key performance indicators that whatever events that books you've managed or products you've managed. And I always tell them, I need to know that you know how to sell a story, right? I think it's wonderful you know how to sell shoes. Woohoo, you can sell hats. I don't care. I care that you know how to sell a story. Yeah. Specifically ebooks, paperback, and audio, right? Minimally. And if they can't give me that, then you can stay friends with me, but I'm not going to hire you.
Yeah.
So, oh my God. So we just, well, me primarily, just because they were asking a whole lot of meaty questions, but um,
These are questions.
they released a question. Yeah. Oh my God. Rod's like, this has happened. Who are you, Rod? Response, I know Ben White. They replied, come on in. Yeah, it was probably Peter. That's what that was.
Yeah,
Um,
you need to stop going to those places.
yeah, right. And then whenever I mention Lisa, I get a free steak dinner. Woo woo. Dude, I don't get a free steak dinner when I mention me. That's not right. I'm jealous.
That doesn't happen at the places where they know me.
Nope. But anyway, so we are over time. I want to thank everybody, Rod, CJ, Margaret. You guys, as always, are so, so, so awesome. Love everybody who's joined us. Don't forget, if you're watching and it is the recording, just go ahead and pop your questions into the chat. We will be more than happy to respond. So with that, we will leave you guys. Have a phenomenal rest of your week, and we will see you next time.